So about 10 years ago, someone said to me, do you really want to be feeling stressed? And I was like, well, no, duh. And then they turned around to me and they said, well, you don't have to, right? And I was like, really? I was like, what? Like, what are you even talking about?
When you're stressed, has someone ever told you just to relax and brush it off? Is there actually such thing as basically stress itself? Is stress actually real? And this is the question we're going to kind of go through and answer today.
Yeah, exactly. Is stress really a choice? Now, we'll kind of obviously throughout this episode give you our opinion on that based on what it is we know, both personally and professionally. But by the end of it, you'll be able to come to your own conclusion and you'll be able to start to decide for yourself if you actually need to choose to be stressed or not. Alright, so before we can come to any kind of conclusion, we need to start talk about what is stress in the first place, right? What actually is it? So put very, very simply, stress is the body's way of reacting to any kind of demand or threat, isn't it?
It is, definitely. And stress is not a condition. Okay, people go, oh, I'm stressed, I'm feeling stressed. No, you're not. I said, you're not stressed, you're experiencing stress, you're in a state of stress. So this is what it is. It's like stress is a state, not a condition. It's your body's way of protecting you from whatever is happening around you.
So I just want to point out as well, stress is not an emotion, right? So many people say to me, how are you feeling? And they say, I'm stressed. Like John said, it's a state, right? You're not feeling that there's the emotion. There are more emotions going on underneath the stress. So stress is a state, and underneath our state, we tend to have different emotions. Like it's more, stress is like a collective label for some fear, some anger, some frustration, for maybe some hurt or some sadness, like whatever the emotions are, is those are contributing to this state of being stressed, okay? Really, really important for understanding what stress is.
Definitely, and just go, I hear so many people go, oh, stress is so bad, stress is not good for you, like you don't want to be stressed. Now, stress is a natural response in the body. It's so it basically gets activated through our nervous system. So in your body, you've got your central nervous system sends signals all around the body. And part of, obviously, your nervous system, you've got your sympathetic and your parasympathetic systems in your body. So your sympathetic is your stress response. Your parasympathetic is your rest and digest response. And we're constantly going between these two, depending on the demands and the threats and whatever's happening in our day-to-day lives. Now, when you get stressed, you activate that sympathetic response, okay? And that's when your body goes into a state of stress. So all the blood that is basically helping you digest food or kind of going to your organs and your brain gets pushed out of those areas and sent to your limbs, sent to your muscles, because then you go into different states. So this is where your body's then kind of going into like freaking out a little bit, thinking, okay, what's going on? And it's trying to understand what's happening. Why are you in that stress state? Okay, and when we stay, the longer we stay in this state for, this is when we get what's kind of the medical profession have determined as chronic stress. There's now like a diagnosis. I've got chronic stress, and I say it's not a disease. Stress is not a disease. Chronic stress is not a disease. All that means is your sympathetic, your stress response has been activated, and you stay in that response constantly. So you never get a chance for your body to rest. You never get a chance for your mind to rest. Everything is always in a state of stress. And the longer you stay there for, it becomes chronic. Okay, and this is where kind of chronic stress comes from. So it's very important to understand that chronic stress is not a disease, it's not a condition, it's not a thing, it's a state that you've just been in for too long.
It's like you're stuck on it.
Yeah, you're literally just stuck in, you've got you're stuck and you've got no idea what to do and where to go. Like it's just there and it's constantly going in that same direction, getting worse and worse and worse.
When we identify with that kind of label as well, of like kind of chronic stress, we take on that role and we kind of take on that's how we're going to react and respond in the world. Because our nervous system is basically like a receiver. It's a receiver of a message that's come in from the external, right, or from the internal and how we've perceived it. And the thing is, like that stress reaction from the nervous system, it's automatic. Guys, it's going to happen. That reaction is not a choice. That reaction is going to happen depending on what it's receiving from you and then your perceptions, okay? So how we respond to it and how much stress we feel is completely a choice, because that will determine if we're going to have healthy stress or unhealthy stress, which we're going to kind of decide like to explain now. But just before we do, we need to understand that your nervous system will automatically produce stress, and depending on what it deems to be a threat, and how you perceive things and how you're signaling your message to your nervous system is going to determine that level of healthy or unhealthy stress.
Definitely. And think about it as, remember the last time someone played a joke on you and they scared you, or you scared someone else? Like, they weren't expecting it, and the natural response is literally like their stress just hits the roof. That sympathetic system activates, and they physically jump and everything. Yeah, like their body's in a state of tension. It's like it's in a heightened like awareness, like adrenaline's gone through the roof, stress is up, and then as soon as they realise that it was just a joke and there's no threat basically to be had there, they calm down, and then they come out of that state of stress. So this is kind of like we call healthy stress. So this is when you're not staying in stress for too long. So stress is when it's warranted. So if something unexpected happens, or you're in a life-threatening situation where your body will automatically activate your sympathetic system and you'll become stressed. And this is to protect you. Okay, but once that threat goes and you start to just kind of, and then there's no more threat, your body's natural response is to relax and come down from that. Again, this is what we call healthy stress. You've got that balance between the two, so it needs to be there. And then it's just understanding that when you go into that stress response, is that your body goes into a state of what we call like fight, flight, or freeze. So if you do perceive something as a threat, you're either going to run away from it, you're going to freeze on the spot, or you're going to fight whatever's in front of you, like whatever's happening. Okay, and when you realise there is no threat, or there's no threat to your life, then none of that needs to happen, because you then start to calm down. Okay, so by understanding that this is what your body does, so if you are in a life-threatening situation, for example, you might be walking in the woods and you come across a bear, so your stress is going to be like through the roof, and you're going to be thinking, do I run, do I just stay still, or do I fight?
The chances are you won't even think that,
exactly.
Right? It'll be a natural, automatic response that will just come into play. So by just having the understanding of stress, and that it comes in this way, that you will fight, freeze or flight, you actually then get to choose after that first initial moment of stress, what happens? Do you keep on running? Like if there was a bear in the wood once, would that stop you from ever going back into the woods again? Right? Because that's now determining how you feel about the woods, right? And it has this knock-on effect of how stressed you're now going to start perceiving things.
Definitely.
All right, so another good example of healthy stress, okay? Let's just use like athletes, right? Athletes who are, competing, they're having to perform at high levels. A certain amount of stress and adrenaline is good. But what they've done, the difference between them and somebody that might just be feeling anxious at the office, for example, is that they've actually mastered their stress. Right? They understand how to get into that state of stress and how to switch on and switch off their sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. And that's now becomes a healthy stress, because they can switch it off and switch it on as and when they need to, because they kind of almost like visualize what's going to happen and to what they need to demand of their nervous system. And that then becomes a bit of an art form, and that's why athletes are so good at what they do. That's why they're elite. That's why they compete. It's because they're able to have this discipline and this understanding and connection with themselves, that they're able to almost control their stress levels.
Oh, for sure. And there's another kind of thing of a healthy stress is if you are in that life-threatening situation. So say for example, you get into a car accident. Okay, you get into a car accident. If you've ever been in this situation, I've had a couple in my time, nothing serious, but your stress response goes through the roof. You're like, your heart's beating crazy fast, adrenaline's coursing, because you don't know really if you're safe or not. You don't know what's happening. So you're in that kind of survival mode. That stress is protecting your body right now. It's basically keeping you alive. So when you now go from that situation to being pulled out of that wreck and you're now maybe safe and sound in hospital, you know there's nothing wrong with you, you're perfectly fine, then you basically automatically come down from that. You switch from that stressful state into that parasympathetic, that rest and digest. This is why people in that heightened stress state, when something happens and they come down from it, they start to kind of shake. Sometimes they start to feel that, like, or even after a while, feel exhausted. Is because you're coming down from that adrenaline rush and that massive rush of stress. And that's what your body does, is what it does naturally. So you're in a life-threatening situation, stress is through the roof, you come out of that and you know you're in a safe zone, you're in a safe place, then automatically your body will start to, again, react to how you think. So you know you're safe now, your body's stress levels reduce, and that stress is gone. And that is what your body does. That's what we call healthy stress. So it activates when it's needed and deactivates when it's not needed.
The thing is, though, there then becomes a fine line between what turns it into unhealthy stress. And to maybe let's just stay on the car example that you shared there. Is like, say you've been in an accident and you know you're in the hospital, you know you're in a safe place now and you're being looked after and your body's kind of trying to regulate itself again, but you still keep on reacting to the memory of the accident. Right now, this is where you might have heard before, your mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and imaginary, because we can literally close our eyes and imagine something and have an emotional response inside of our system. And that's what's happening there. If you're now in that safe place and you know, you keep rethinking it and replaying it over and over again, your nervous system is like, oh no, we're still in danger, and that's not necessarily the case, right? Physically, you might be nice and safe, but emotionally, not so much.
Yeah, and then stress just tends to compound at that point, because you're constantly thinking about it. You're now, even though you're in a safe place, your body is now constantly in that state of stress. So you're constantly feeding it that fear, that's kind of adrenaline, that stress that you felt when you were in that kind of life-threatening situation. So that's constantly compounding and adding on and adding on and adding on, isn't it?
It is, and that unhealthy stress is then when we're having too much of it, right? It's like no longer now something that we had for like 30 seconds, a minute, right? It's now something that we're holding on to hours and hours after and replaying over and over again, recreating that emotional reaction. And the problem with this is the fact that there's a misunderstanding of what you can control and you can't control, because we can control what we're thinking about and what we're focusing on. We have the ability and the capacity to be able to do that. The thing is, why that's so important is because we're always attaching meaning to things, right? That's why some people can have a car accident and then be scared of getting in the car their entire life, or they can be like, wow, I'm so lucky, I'm so grateful, I'm going to make sure I live my life, right, to fully, and I'm going to master all the things I wanted to master. They go on this complete positive direction. That's because they are controlling the meanings they are attaching to situations. And you know, you've for sure you've heard that before, because like those are like traumatic, usually emotional, life-changing events. But the thing is, we need to like just look a little bit deeper at our everyday states of stress now, because it's not just those big traumatic significant events that trigger that response for us, okay? We can start to attach unhealthy meanings to certain things that trigger that heightened stress state in our body. For example, caring what somebody's going to think about you when you walk into a shop or into a cafe or into a restaurant and you're wondering what you're wearing and all these different things. That can trigger like the social anxiety within you, and that stress state becomes heightened. It can be when your phone pings and there's an email from your boss or from a customer, or all of these kind of different IDs and stories you've got going on in your world. You know, that's going to also trigger your stress levels, and you know that's only because you're sending that signal to your nervous system to receive, to say we're being threatened right now, this is not okay, what am I going to do? And then you kind of keep on going with that story. You stay in that heightened level of stress, so your quality of your thinking will affect how your nervous system is reacting, which is why we need to work with them together and start to master how you're thinking about things, how you're then feeling about things as well emotionally.
Definitely, and then it just comes to the fact that it's recognizing the signs of unhealthy stress. And this is where I think a lot of people tend to go wrong, because obviously they in that perception of all stress is bad, and it's not. Okay, like we said, you already know now that some stress is healthy for you, and it's not a choice whether you get stressed or not, but the sign is a choice how you react to it after that situation arises. So it's important to understand some of the signs of unhealthy stress, and one of them Charlotte's already mentioned, which is about your quality of your thinking. So like overthinking is a big sign of being in that stress response. Constantly overthinking, negative thinking, even though negative thinking is not bad, okay, we all do it, but constant negative thinking where that's all you think about, and overthinking, that is a red flag. That's a big sign that you are in that state, that sympathetic response, that stress state, as well as physical illness and tension. Okay, this is a big one I've seen for many years. People who get sick in like the cold or the flu, or get injured a lot, or feeling a lot of inflammation or pain in the body. That is a huge sign that you are in a constant state of stress. That what they call chronic stress. Okay, because you've been spending so long in it, your body doesn't know how to deal with it, and it's sending you signals like pain, like injuries, like inflammation, like illnesses to send you a sign that, okay, like you need to focus on, you need to pay attention to me, like you need to de-stress and get yourself into a more rested and relaxed state.
So also same when it comes to like depression and anxiety, right? Anxiety is usually when we are feeling that kind of heightened like stress state, and we feel like agitated, we feel symptoms like heart beating really fast, sweaty palms, just overthinking in the moment is a form of anxiety as well, and that kind of shows that we're in that stressed state, we're in that sympathetic nervous system. But sometimes, and we can get stuck there, but sometimes obviously depression comes with that, because we don't always stay in that heightened state. Depression, we then drop completely, and we almost get stuck on the other end of the spectrum, and we get stuck in that parasympathetic state almost, and we end up feeling depressed, right? Because we are feeling down, and we go through these two extremes, which is why they usually work hand in hand together. So we don't want to stay in the rest and recovery state for too long, but we also don't want to stay in the stress state for too long. It's about creating that balance between the two that becomes essential for healthy amounts of stress rather than unhealthy amounts and getting stuck in one place or another.
Definitely, and poor digestion and low immunity are again another big red flag when it comes to stress. So when you, like we already discussed earlier, when you're stressed, the blood that's sitting around your organs and your kind of stomach for digesting food go to the limbs, go to the muscles. So when you start eating in a stressed state, your body can't effectively digest food and actually take in those nutrients that you're trying to get. Because again, your gut's more in an inflamed state because of that state of stress you're feeling or that you're experiencing. So your body can't digest food when you're in a chronically stressed state, and that will give many issues like poor digestion, IBS, all these other symptoms and other things that happen within the gut because of stress. And because your gut has a direct connection with your immune system as well, that then will start to lower your immune system, which then in turn means you're more susceptible to illness and diseases as well. So it all has a knock-on effect, along with, again, one of the, I think, biggest kind of factors that a lot of people tend to feel is fatigue. There's so many times I hear it, I'm always tired, I always feel so tired, I had a good night's sleep, but by 12 o'clock, I'm exhausted. That's a kind of a common symptom of stress. Okay, you're spending too much time in stress, you're constantly tired, you're constantly fatigued all the time, and you just feel exhausted every single day.
Because your body's always ready. It's ready for that threat, and that's tiring, right? Because you can't always be in that state. Another thing as well, probably the last one, let's say we'll mention today, is like trouble sleeping, insomnia, or just broken sleep patterns. That's also a big sign of stress. And you know, I'm sure you listening to this, you'll be able to actually relate to that in moments where you know your mind is rolling over the things that happened the previous day or what you've got to do the next day, and you're kind of in your own head with that. But when you are, again, your nervous system is like on alert because it's thinking, oh no, we're not ready to sleep now, we must be awake, we must make sure that we're ready for any threats that could be coming at us. Because you've got to remember, your nervous system actually doesn't understand the story, it just understands the signal, right? So if you're laying in bed awake thinking that a burglar is going to come into your house, you know, your body's going to be in that state of stress. But if you're laying in your bed and you're thinking about a phone call that you need to make tomorrow afternoon, your nervous system is going to react in the same way as what if you think there's a burglar in the house. It doesn't understand the story, it only understands the signal, which is saying, protect me, right? That's all it's saying is that's all it thinks you're trying to say is protect me, keep me safe. And your nervous system is saying, okay, yes, I'll do that for you. So your nervous system thinks it's doing the right thing, but in actual fact, you've got to start taking control of your nervous system and sending a better message and sending a better signal.
Definitely, and now that you know kind of these signals and what to look for, it now becomes a choice whether you want to live with it or whether you want to deal with it. Like for me, I experienced chronic stress, or what I call chronic stress, basically for like over 10 years. I lived in a state of stress all the time, and I was constantly exhausted. I'd be drinking 9 cups of coffee a day with no effect, like nothing, no stimulation on my adrenals, nothing. I was constantly stressed the whole time, tired all the time, not sleeping well, in pain. And it took me a while to realize that I didn't have to live like that. Once I made that choice not to live like that, then I found my solution easy enough, and I started to implement it. When I implemented it, stress went. And the only time I ever feel that heightened state of stress is if something unexpected happens within my life, that obviously that activates that response. Okay, apart from that, I don't let all these menial kind of things like emails or other people affect the way that I deal with my own stress.
Weirdly, he doesn't even jump now. You know, we said earlier about like if you make somebody jump. If I try and make him jump, you don't even jump, do you?
No.
Like you're that chilled. I'm not kind of at that level. I would still jump and scream or whatever. But it just goes to show you can shift that, right? You can shift that if you want to. And by now you're probably thinking, okay, well, all right, I'm almost convinced that I can affect my own stress levels, right? And how much healthy stress I'm actually, having. But you're probably thinking, well, how? How am I supposed to control this? If I'm stressed out all the time, how on earth am I supposed to control it? Well, we're going to give you some tips now on exactly what you can do to just feel healthy stress only.
Definitely. And the first tip is something that you probably heard us speak a lot about. And the reason we speak a lot about it is because it is the foundation for everything, which is your breathing. Retrain how you breathe. Because literally right now, if I tell you to hyperventilate, is literally to breathe fast and high into your chest, you'll activate your stress response straight away just by sitting here. Okay, and if I tell you to breathe slowly in through your nose for 5 seconds, out through your mouth for 5 seconds, and you will start to calm and switch your stress state to your rest and digest state just by sitting here breathing. Okay, so if you notice anytime you feel stressed or you feel anxious or anything is overwhelming you, notice how you're breathing. I guarantee that you're breathing high into your chest and you're breathing very fast. Okay, and you're breathing through your mouth. Switch that, retrain yourself to breathe. It's the fastest way to influence your nervous system. Okay, so breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth will help to get you into that calming, relaxed state. And just do it as long as it takes until you feel that sense of relaxation.
If you do that first, right? Out of all of these things that we're sharing with you now, all 4 of these, do that one first, because that makes the rest of them a lot easier, okay, and makes them possible as well in some cases. So the second one here, okay, in terms of how to feel only healthy stress, okay, is to take ownership of that inner dialogue, okay, that little voice inside your mind, those thoughts that you have. Become aware and own the meanings you're attaching to things. Start to make sure that you are that narrator of your own story, and that the questions you ask yourself, the thoughts that you're thinking to yourself, even the words you say out loud, make sure that they are leading to resourceful emotions and that kind of relaxed recovery state of emotions, which are those more positive, high vibing emotions, okay? If your thoughts are causing you to feel like anxious or depressed or stressed or panicked or just tense in your body, if it's causing those things, then you need to take a look at what it is you're actually saying to yourself, right? Because if you walk into an event or into your work setting and you've got this inner dialogue going on, it's going to be a terrible day, you've got this to do and you've got that to do, and this person's not going to like this, or you're scared about doing that, you're going to immediately put yourself into that stress state. So we want to change that dialogue, flip it around and start to understand how can you actually tune into that inner dialogue better so you can actually improve it.
Definitely. And my inner dialogue used to always be, why is this person stressing me out? Why is this person not doing the work? They're causing me more stress. Okay, just by thinking that, I was causing more stress on myself. So I was actually the creator of my own stress. Like I was making things worse, not other people.
Yeah, a common one is this good enough, or am I good enough? Right, that's just a constant replay, a question on people's minds. And so many people experience this, okay, and this is something that I work a lot with clients on. We call it a driving question, like what is that question? Because that's going to create a certain emotional reaction within you. For example, if I walk around saying, is this good enough, or am I good enough? One, it presupposes that I'm not, therefore your system goes into doubt. Right, and it starts to think of all the ways in which you might not be good enough, and that can override any of the answers of, yeah, do you know what, I am good enough, right? This is good enough. So we need to change the quality of the questions and the quality of the thoughts that we're asking. Yeah. All right, so the third thing here on how to keep healthy stress only is to actually pinpoint the specific emotions that you're feeling, instead of claiming that word stress, right? A lot of people use stress as a badge of honor, don't they? They are like, oh yeah, I've been so stressed out, but it's okay, I dealt with it, and they almost like use it as this way to lift themselves up and to almost like rub the ego a little bit. Now, that's not going to help you in the long term, right? It might make you feel good in that moment because you've been able to overcome a tough week or a tough day or a stressful situation at work or whatever it may be. But pinpointing the actual emotions that you're feeling underneath that label of stress is absolutely essential. Otherwise, you have that compounding effect that John mentioned earlier, which will start to just build up, and you end up snapping, or you end up in a chronic state where you're in that sympathetic nervous system far too much.
Definitely. And the fourth tip is to have an outlet. Okay, very important. So stress is a physical energy that needs to be released. Okay, and when you're stressed, the problem is most people, because they don't release it and they store it, it comes out in unhealthy ways, which is like punching a wall or someone else, shouting stuff. Yeah, exactly. For no reason at all. It's just snap. So it's important to have an outlet for your stress. Now, when you do get stressed, your body stores that, and then something that your body does or has is like a somatic response. It wants to release it, and this is where you just listen to your body and what it wants to do. That might mean going for a walk. Okay, that might mean talking to someone to kind of get everything out. Venting to someone. It might mean going to the gym. It might mean doing yoga. It might mean just literally standing on the spot, shaking your whole body and making whatever noise that comes out. Okay, so whatever. Yeah, and your stress will be gone like that. You'll just feel so much more relaxed. You just stand on the spot, shake your whole body, make a sound, scream, shout, whatever you want to do, just let that sound come out, and then do that for like 10, 20, 30 seconds. You're going to feel amazing afterwards. But whatever your body feels like it needs to do. Don't just keep it pent up and do nothing with it.
Just an important thing to add there is like where John said, obviously have that outlet and it's an energy. You need to make sure that outlet is not something else that is going to add to your stress. Okay, so you mentioned then like going to the gym. Okay, this is a common one. We've seen a lot of people that are addicted to exercise or addicted to the gym. And that is happening because they feel like that's their outlet, but actually it's the worst thing they could be doing for themselves because they're the wrong type of exercise. So just because they're putting even more stress on their body, right? They'll go and like hit the gym really hard and do high intensity exercise because they're super stressed that day. Where in actual fact, all you're doing is causing yourself to stay in that stress state even more. So you need to dial down the intensity of the exercise as well, for it to have the desired effect when exercising for stress relief. So it's not a case of go hard and go home. It's a case of
exactly low impact, low volume, just steady state kind of exercise, something where it's not physically demanding on your body, but it just allows you to release.
Not create.
Exactly.
Big deal. Alright guys, so by now you've obviously heard our take on if stress is a choice or not. But it's just important for you to understand that stress is normal, right? It is okay to have some stress in your life so long as it is healthy stress, right? It's a natural part of who we are. And without it, we wouldn't grow, we wouldn't adapt, and we wouldn't have that trust that our body is going to protect us in certain situations. So we want to keep a certain amount of stress, but we want to make sure it is a healthy stress.
Definitely, and learning to recognize the quality of the stress that you're experiencing will lead you to basically just being free from unnecessary stress. And this is very, very important. It's not about being stress-free completely, because stress, like we've already mentioned, can be good, can be healthy for you. but it's getting rid of that unnecessary stress that is causing those issues and other things that are going around on in your life right now.
Yeah, guys, so listen, try those things, and I promise you again, guys, we give you everything on these podcasts. Okay, you might need to go and dig a little bit deeper on some certain things, but you're getting like the place to start at least. Okay, so please go ahead and try the things that we've mentioned. If you feel like you need some more help in terms of getting rid of that unnecessary stress, please reach out to us. We've got our 4-phase human blueprint, which takes you through the ultimate release of any unnecessary stress in your life, so that you can actually move past that, get rid of that unnecessary energy, create space for new energy that is actually going to help you to live the life that you actually want.
Awesome. So that is it from us today, guys. If you do have any questions, as always, reach out to us anytime and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So until next time, bye.
See ya.